Good morning, everyone. It is always a pleasure to see the Think Right family. Thank you so much for joining us this weekend, early in the morning, for our International Day of Yoga celebration, which we are starting with Ira Trivedi. All of you know Ira already, of course, but just a few words talking about her. She is right now in the middle of a fundraiser called Being Yoga, where they're working for COVID relief. It's a great concept. It's a live session that's going to be happening tomorrow. You can find more details on her page about that. Ira, of course, is she's a yogi. She is a best-selling author. She's been a TV host, and she's BBC's one of BBC's 100 most influential women on this planet. So it's a privilege to be having her today. She's our first speaker for these series of webinar that we are doing as a part of this International Day of Yoga celebration. Welcome, Meera. So nice to see you.
Welcome, Jyoti. Thank you for having me.
So, as everybody already knows, we will be talking about a lot of myths around yoga today. There are a lot. I mean, you and I, we both understand like the kind of things we hear from children should not be doing yoga to yoga should not happen after the sun has been set. So, we'll be talking about those. But before we get started, let's talk about your yoga journey. How did that start?
Jyoti, could I request that we all begin with just a short prayer and short meditation to set the tone, especially since this is the first of your webinars, to set the tone for these webinars. Is that
Absolutely,
okay?
absolutely.
Great, great. If everyone could just take a comfortable seated posture, keep your back straight and keep your spine straight. Just close your eyes and begin to focus on your breath. And just let's begin with a body scan. We move from our toes to our ankles, to our calves, to our knees, to our thighs, to our hips, to our abdomen. Move to the palms, the fingers, the wrists, the forearms, the elbows, upper arms, the shoulders, the neck, the chin, the lips, the nose, the eyes, the forehead. And if there's any remaining tension in the body, just focus on them and release. And if your mind is still elsewhere, then visually unplug yourself from WhatsApp, social media, your children, your spouse, as if you are pulling the plug on an outer world and moving to an inner world. Coming back to the breath, feeling the air moving up to the nostrils and moving out of the nostrils, moving into the nostrils and out of the nostrils. And just for a few moments, try to breathe according to my counting. So we inhale on 1, on 2, on 3, on 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's inhale deeply and chant Om 3 times altogether. Om. Om. Gam Ganpataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganpataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganpataye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Thank you everyone for
Thank you.
joining in.
So, like we were talking, we will be talking about a lot of myths. But before that, we just quickly wanted to understand your yoga journey. How did it all begin?
Gosh, Jyoti, mine was a very unexpected one. In fact, just this morning, I was practicing yoga and there were ants on my mat everywhere, right? Because I was practicing on the balcony and where I practice, because of a little bit of rain, ants, small ants. And I remember when I was a kid, there was a tree next to our house, and there was a lot of ants around the tree. Sometimes near the roots of the tree, there's a lot of black ants. And my hobby, my pastime was to go to that tree as a child and to kill all the ants, right? I used to somehow enjoy doing this, all right? There's really big ants. There were the really fat ants. And I would just want to get rid of them. I didn't want any of those ants to be there in that tree because they were invading it. So I felt as if this is my tree, those ants shouldn't be there. This morning on my yoga mat, as I was practicing, there's a lot of small ants, and these are the ants that really bite you. Right? These are the ants that really bite, and they cause a lot of itching when they bite you, right? So oftentimes, and swelling. I'm a little allergic to also ants, I think. So the ant bites you, and it causes a lot of itching. Now imagine if you're doing yoga, what happens, right? So I want to do yoga on the balcony. I've been wanting to do yoga, but every time I go, there's so many ants. And no matter how much spray we put, whatever they put, they always come back. So I decided that let me tell the ants, please don't bite me when I do yoga. All right. So every time now on my balcony this morning, I sat down, I said, ants, please let me practice and you can go about your day. Let's leave each other in our own space. And I kid you not, as I was practicing, not a single ant bit me, and they were all over my mat, not even one. In fact, the only time there was a little bit of it bit me was when I by mistake killed it. You know, I put my hand in it in the Surya Namaskar and I smashed one ant and it died. Poor ant. I didn't mean to, but then it happened. And that was the only time that there was a small sting. Otherwise, during my entire practice, this didn't happen. So I thought back to myself before this yoga journey, and I said, wow, all of these things I have learned about ahimsa. I said, I must not have known anything about ahimsa when I was killing all those ants. I knew nothing about being in touch with the nature and the beings around me. That tree for me was mine when I was a child. But now, because of this yoga journey, right, and it happens in such a natural way. Yoga, doing a yogasana, I was never taught that don't kill ants or practice ahimsa. But all of these things came naturally. So today I'm in a place where just because of a daily practice, Jyoti, just because I made a commitment to myself 15 years ago that I would practice yoga every single day, I still I was able to practice and bring in so many other elements into my life, right? Like able to practice non-violence against these ants, being able to just, be in sync with nature as opposed to trying to dominate nature. And these are not things that you may read or anyone teaches you, but it's a very natural progression. So I feel like in some ways this little story kind of expresses my journey in a bit of an interesting way, from where I've come to what I've become just through a daily practice of pranayam, of asana, and trying to stay committed to the practice. And there are days when even I'm not able to stay committed, right? There's days that are very busy, that I'm teaching a lot, that I'm not anymore, but previously when I was traveling a lot. And those days I wouldn't do the yogasana practice. But I have learned that a daily practice is so important. And the kind of message I want to give today is it doesn't matter where you start, how you start. The only thing that matters is stay committed and do your practice every single day.
It's very interesting because we had actually opened up the questionnaire while we were registering, and these two are actually one of the most common questions we got. One, how does yoga really change your mind? And what effect does it have? And you've kind of already answered that question. And the other was about how to stay committed to something like this. So, can you just talk more about does yoga really have an effect on your thought process? Because that's
It
something
does.
I want to know.
It does. You know what yoga is doing on an easier way than meditation. Meditation also does it. Pranayam also does it. But yoga asanas is the easiest way of actually achieving this. Is it balances the pranic energy in the body and the so it balances the pranic energy, right? So in a lot of areas of our body, there's trapped energy. And what ultimately leads to disease is trapped energy. There's trapped energy in the mind, there's trapped energy in the body. And when we do a practice of pranayam, when we do a practice of yoga, we help untrap that energy. And that is why after yoga, you feel very light. You feel very light in the body and you feel very light in the mind. So, this unlocking and untrapping of prana will help the mind, will help the clarity of the mind. So just like we build immunity of the body, right, through taking supplements, whatever it is, and even through asana, the mind is the very, very important thing. And yoga asanas have a direct effect on the mind. And those who have done a yoga practice with me or with any other teacher may have realized this that you feel so good after yoga and you don't feel tired, you don't feel high strung. Sometimes after you go to the gym, you feel very, let's go and, let's go conquer the world, all right? With yoga, you feel in a very balanced state. The body is balanced, the mind is balanced, and the reason is because the pranic energy or the life force or the chi is balanced.
Thanks, Ira. Thanks so much for that. Everybody is here to actually ask questions from you, so I'm going to stop doing that now. Suhas, can we please open the chat box so that people can start posting their questions? And while we get new questions, Ira, let me just start with some that we have already received. I think the most what you've actually answered is from Dr. Somnath Saha, who says people think that yoga means something to do only with the body system. They do not know about the soul connection. How can we remove this myth?
The only way to remove this myth is through experience. And if you experience the practice, then you'll begin to realize that, that it is so important, right? That just through this experience, you'll immediately begin to realize. And that's the quickest and most effective way.
Absolutely. I'm just making sure that the chat window is open. Suhas, can we open it for people so that they can start posting their questions? While that happens, let me come to another one that people have been asking, which is about, if I have arthritis, can I do yoga? If I have a bent spine, can I do yoga? It's a very common question that we've received from a lot of people. So, can you just talk
Yes,
about that because people are very
absolutely. Absolutely. Arthritis, you can definitely do yoga. You may have to modify. See, for example, if you have a lactose intolerant, you don't consume milk. Just like that, if you have arthritis, there are certain things you may avoid very aggressive postures, right? Very advanced postures. You may have to just begin at the basic. And sometimes these are what are called yoga props. This is a yoga brick. And using some of these blocks can be very effective for people who are suffering from certain ailments because they support you. So they allow you to experience the posture without putting a lot of pressure on your joints. And this can be very helpful for people with arthritis. And same with people with any sort of a back problem or a spinal problem. You can always use these props to support you. Blocks, bolster or a cushion or a chair. And all of these can allow you to do yoga. The beautiful thing about modern yoga is that how many teachers have modified it, right? Many, many amazing teachers have helped modify it. So it's very important that you understand what your ailments are to be modified. We don't give, when you go to a doctor, the doctor doesn't give the same dose of medicine to every single patient, right? For every single person, it's a little bit different. And in yoga, it's the same way. you have to have a certain amount of body awareness to be able to do these practices in an effective way.
We have a very interesting question from Aparna Pawar. Um, can yoga help us to make a body like a bodybuilder? I think that's another common one.
A bodybuilder, I mean, if you want really bulked up muscles, then yoga may not help you. But if you want a very fit body, then yoga will definitely help you, right? There's a lot of, as I said, you can do an extremely, I mean, I just taught a class and it was an extremely rigorous class. It was for advanced students, right? And it was for people who are very fit. And so they were, and they're all on a weight loss journey. They're all trying to get fit, and their class was a little different kind of yoga class. So you do have to find the yoga that suits you, because if you don't find the yoga that suits you, the postures that suit you, then you may find it boring, you may get injured. So it's very, very important to do that. Some people are very lucky. They find the right teacher immediately. Some people have to work a little harder to find the right teacher, right? It's like anything else. For example, if some of your kids are in tuitions, right? Sometimes you find an amazing tuition teacher who really teaches your students how to do well. Sometimes you have a teacher teaching the same subject material. There's no different in subject material, but it's the way the teacher actually gives the material to the student. And that is the importance of a teacher in yoga, right? Sometimes you go onto YouTube, this, that, but what is important is finding a good teacher. And now the good news is that because of online world of yoga, there's access to so many teachers online, and that's one of the biggest beauties of the pandemic.
Coming to pandemic, quite a few people have actually asked that when can we start yoga after COVID? Like, how soon can it be a part of the recovery process?
So again, as I said, we have yoga classes in our studio called Yoga Love. It's an online virtual studio, and we actually have a lot of COVID recovery classes. And we actually advise students to come immediately. If you don't have a fever, you can begin doing your yoga practice, and yoga will help you recover. And this is gentle yoga, right? You're just stretching the body, you're doing breathing, you're just working with your lungs, opening up the spine. Very, very gentle class. So gentle yoga is a fantastic way for students and people to get, to recover after COVID. And once you do your gentle yoga, you can move on to more, once you get more fit and healthy, you can move on to slightly more rigorous forms of yoga.
We have a question from Payal Bedi. She says that yoga is only about asanas. It's not a way of life. Is a myth that she's heard. She wants you to talk more about it.
Sure. Payal, I'll just give you actually, honestly, for me, my entire journey transformed when I realized that yoga was a way of life. And it's not just about the asanas that you do, but it's about the way that you eat. It's about the way that you think. It's about the way that you behave. It's about the way that you breathe. And from the mat, we have to bring all of these things into our life. Right? We have to move beyond our yoga mats and bring these into our real life. And this is what yoga has taught me personally. But it was only when I understood that yoga was a way of life versus yoga being just an asana practice. But it can begin with an asana practice, right? It can very much begin with an asana practice.
Absolutely. Rabindra Narayan, who's actually quite young, he's around 19 years old, is asking, should we keep our eyes open or closed during yoga?
It depends on you, it depends on you, honestly. More advanced practitioners usually prefer closed eyes. But
Right.
you'll have to keep your eyes open during some point. But it's when you close your eyes, it becomes a little bit more meditative.
Another question is, and I'm sure a lot of beginners have this question, that they're actually a combination of two. Should yoga only be done in the morning when on an empty stomach? And do we need to take a bath before doing a yoga practice?
Great question. So I always take a bath before I do my yoga practice. I actually take a bath before I do my yoga practice. I even do a bath before I go for a jog, for that matter. You know, I even on a hot day, before I go, I take a bath. I take a shower because I want to feel fresh and energetic. So for me, my practice is as soon as I wake up, almost immediate after a meditation, I immediately go and take a shower. That's my practice because I like to feel fresh. And especially before yoga, I like to, and you're not sweating profusely during yoga. You're just perspiring a little bit. And honestly, if you use some deodorant, then it's usually fine.
So, what about the empty stomach? Like, what's the ideal gap between your meal and your yoga session?
So ideally, yoga in the morning on an empty stomach is the most amazing, but it's not often possible for many people. Not, it's not, sometimes you have to do yoga in the evening. So definitely it's better to do some yoga than no yoga. All right, that I can tell you. But the morning, I'll tell you why the morning is better. When you do yoga, you're fundamentally balancing prana in your body, right? So your state of mind is more balanced. And when you tackle the day ahead of you, when you tackle everything which is coming at you, you're able to use that balanced state of mind for 12, 14 hours. Now, if you do yoga at 6:30 p.m. and you go to bed by say 10 p.m., right? So you end your practice by 7:30. Between your end of your yoga practice and your nighttime is 3 hours, right? So now you are able to use your balanced state of mind for 3 hours. So it's just a more effective way of utilizing that balanced state of mind. But definitely evening practice is better. Sometimes, honestly, I'll tell you, these days I've been so busy because of International Day of Yoga. A few days ago, I began my practice at 9 p.m. at night. I ate my dinner at 6 p.m. and I did my practice at 9 p.m. because I said, if I do my practice, I will just feel in a very balanced state of mind and I'll have a very beautiful sleep. And that's exactly what happened. So sometimes you do have to adjust your practice. And I was so happy I did that practice. Rather than watching Netflix, I utilized my time and I did an asana practice. So this is the way that, I approach it. Do as much asana practice as you can. Morning, you get more bang for your buck, as they say, but evening is also good.
So, Viral wants to know, I do yoga indoors and in an air conditioned environment. Is that less beneficial or is that okay?
Honestly, sometimes you have to. I mean, it's better to do yoga in a balanced climate than be really hot and after 5 minutes feel so hot that you can't proceed in your yoga practice. So if you have AC at a moderate temperature, like so that your room temperature is 25, 26, 27, you're at room temperature. Right? You don't have to make it into an 18, 19 degrees. The only thing is that with yoga, the air condition dries up the air a lot. So I would suggest keeping a humidifier in the room, you know, because that creates some humidity. And sometimes when the room is very, very dry, it dries up our sinus. So a lot of times there's sinusitis because the sinus cavity gets a little dried up. So that's the reason why I suggest that if you are using the AC, then make sure that it's not just about the temperature. It's also about the environment. Like a lightly humid environment is very nice for your breathing. It's very nice for your nasal membranes. So if you are practicing yoga and if you're a serious practitioner, you're doing a regular practice, investing in a small humidifier is a good thing so that there's a little bit of humidity in the room. Otherwise, for example, during monsoon, there's already so much humidity that even with an air conditioner on, it's still humid, so you're fine. So in India, we do have a lot of climate conditions, especially, for example, in Delhi. Right now, it's very hot, then there'll be monsoons, and it's cold. So because we have these variable weathers, just like skincare, you have to change your skincare based on the weather outside. So just like this, you do have to think about your inner body as well, right? You do have to change some of this stuff for your practice of yoga.
I hope it really helps. I mean, these are some very useful tips about the temperature. I hope people have made a note of that. We have Anusha, who's 14. She wants to know, why do we use a yoga mat for yoga?
You use a yoga mat because the floor is a bit hard. You know, if you do yoga on absolutely a ground, then it does become a little bit, it's hard. So then your knees and your palms, there's no cushion, so it becomes a little uncomfortable. If you're doing yoga, actually doing yoga on the grass is amazing. If you do it, it's such a beautiful cushion. It provides a natural cushion to the body if you do it in a natural, natural earth. But If you're doing a natural earth, then those bugs can get on you, and mud can get on you, and a lot of other stuff can get on you. So unless you have like a floor which is not all excreting stuff, then it's okay. I know some people who just don't mind if they get dirt on their body. I know some people who have really nice wooden floors, and on a wooden floor you can do yoga even without using a mat. On a natural wood floor, because wood has a natural cushion and it gives you a natural grip also, like a wood, right? Like like a nice real wood floor. But real wood floors are rare. Even this wood is not a real wood floor. This is a tile, and it's very hard, you know. So I've tried doing yoga on this, and it's so hard. It puts so much pressure on the body. So I like to use, I really like to use a very cushioned yoga mat because it really helps. So actually, the yoga mat that I'm sitting on right now, this is made by a student of mine. It's actually from the same material used for a mattress. It's quite a nice, strong cushion so that there's less pressure on the joints. And I feel it's very nice. So I do think that if you're a regular practitioner, investing in a good yoga mat is nice. It's also nice because that yoga mat starts holding your energy, and you get on that yoga mat, and it becomes your place, your place of practice. So I actually, when I do my own practice, I usually wear the same clothes on, two sets of clothes I have, and I only practice in those two sets of clothes because I feel when I wear those clothes, and my mind becomes in tune for yoga. When I get onto my yoga mat, I've been using almost the same yoga mat for 10 years, then I get that. It's like wearing a school uniform. You wear your school uniform and you're ready for school, right? So these are some small things that I've learned along my journey that I'm just sharing with you that I hope it's good.
It's how a particular place, music, everything comes together. You're ready then. That's the reason I guess why people have those little corners in their house which they dedicate to prayers. It's almost similar to that, I guess.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, we have a very interesting question. I've heard that women should not do Kapal Bhati. Is that true?
Um, no, that's not true. Women can absolutely do Kapalbhati. During their periods, they may feel uncomfortable, you know? They may feel uncomfortable, especially during periods and during pregnancy. Otherwise, Kapalbhati is safe unless you have very high BP. If you have very, very high BP, then it may be unsafe, but do Kapalbhati gently. And if you do yoga, you do it gently, then it'll help a lot.
Everyone, Ira has shared her website on the group, on the chat. If anybody has more questions or they want to connect with her, you can definitely make a note of
Yes, absolutely. I'm also going to give you my IG handles and even my email address. All right. And if you just say that you're from the Jet Synthesis team, then definitely we will answer any remaining questions in case we run out of time.
definitely. I'm coming to the next question quickly. Uh, you say, okay, does yoga cover cardio as well, or do we need more exercise when we are doing
Great
yoga?
question. Great question. So, in our online yoga classes, we have actually inserted a cardio element. And the reason for this is that it's a lockdown. People are not moving as much. People for online yoga are rolling out of their beds and coming to the yoga mat, right? They're literally, many people just roll off and onto the yoga mat and switch on the class and start practicing. So they're in the earlier days, the yogis were walking up a mountain, going to the yoga shala. Before the practice, they were cutting the wood, they were milking the cow, all of that stuff. So they were coming to the practice with some amount of exercise. Now that's not happening, right? People are not doing that. So this is the reason why, we insert cardio into our practices so that every yoga class is balanced. You do some warm-ups, you do some cardio, and then you do your asanas, you do your pranayam. So you cover almost everything in one class. And that is important. We do need to bring a little bit of cardiovascular exercise. So I always tell yoga practitioners, if you're doing yoga in the morning, go for a walk in the evening. If you're doing yoga in the morning, then take your children to the park in the evening and play with them. And that's also an amazing thing to do, right? That's also cardio. Running behind your child is pretty good cardio, as many moms would now know. So, all of these are cardiovascular exercises that bring them into your life, but just make sure that you're getting that movement in the morning and in the evening.
Definitely. We have Swati. I think she's a young mom. She says, I'm always told about kids yoga, but is that different from normal yoga? Yeah, sorry. Is that different from normal yoga?
So, yes, it is. It is. And Swati, I'm happy to invite actually everyone from the Jet Synthesis family for any class of your that you'd like to at Yoga Love. We actually have kids classes at Yoga Love, and they're taught in a very different way. They're not taught in that typical way that because a lot of kids, moms, they tell us our kids hate yoga because they do it in school and they're really bored. So we don't teach it like that. Our yoga classes are really fun. We have art in them, we do mindfulness practices, we do breathing practices, we do a little bit of yoga. So it becomes a kind of a fun activity and kids look forward to this. So we bring in a few different things into this class versus you know, just do some boring asanas on a smelly mat. We don't do that.
We have Akshay asking, is the sequence of pranayam kriya essential to follow?
It depends. It's good to follow a sequence. I am in favor of sequences because repetition is very important in the practice of yoga, right? The more that it's yoga is fundamentally about repetition. We repeat, we repeat, we repeat. That's what yoga is about. So I think following a sequence is always good, whatever that sequence may be.
Definitely. Ramesh Mishra is asking, what are the yoga exercises to develop better eyesight?
There's a whole bunch of them, Ramesh, and actually, yoga exercises can be very, very good. Very, very good for the eyes. In fact, I have a book, The 10-Minute Yoga Solution. You can download that book easily, and that has a range of eye exercises because eye exercises are in fact valuable for yoga, and they've really proved give good results. And I think it's quite important in this day and age for everyone to do eye exercises. Also during the asanas, many times during the asanas, you maintain certain drishti points. You have you're looking towards your navel, you're looking towards the middle of your nose, and by maintaining these drishti points, we're actually exercising our eyesight. That's what it is. So even during an asana practice, maintaining the drishti and focusing at a point is actually good for your eyes.
Absolutely. Muskan is asking, between Dhyan yoga and physical yoga, which one is better?
Both are good. Both are good, right? I wouldn't rate any of them better than the other ones.
Okay, this is interesting. Murali is asking, if is yoga a religious concept?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yoga is completely, while it comes from India and it's been developed by, it's part of Hindu scriptures, but it can be and should be practiced by everyone.
Which is the other thing that a lot of people have asked, that why is it that Indians are having a difficult time adopting yoga while it's flourishing in the West?
Oh gosh, great question. I think it's a discipline. Westerners are very, very disciplined. And, I remember when I was living in the West, my days were like chock-a-block full. Everything is planned, everything is scheduled, the culture is a bit more disciplined than here in India. So I feel like because we have a slightly less disciplined culture, and yoga is about discipline. Yoga is about discipline. Like yoga is essentially about, it's such an important part of yoga is discipline, right? So I feel sometimes our culturally we lack a bit of discipline. That said, some of the best students are Indians because they have that great sense of discipline. So it's not like a blanket, but I think many times we aren't just for some, I don't know what reason, but it is, I find it's a cultural thing. I teach classes in Scandinavia, and those guys in Scandinavian countries, those guys are not ever 1 minute late, not even 1 minute late. So, yes.
Okay, I think we have time for a couple of quick questions now. Can yoga only be enough to cure the physical and emotional baggages, or one can rely on both meditation and yoga simultaneously? Because some yoga experts say that they can help with this. Is this a reliable truth?
Actually, if you are facing a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, then or a clinical depression, then meditation actually is not great for you. your mind begins to wander here, then actually an asana practice is very effective because an asana practice is helping balance your endocrine system. And often a lot of clinical depressions are caused by, imbalance of hormones. So I strongly suggest that if it's a matter just of stress and tension, then a normal yoga practice is fantastic and definitely can help balance. But if there's a clinical issue, then you'll have to check. In fact, you should avoid meditation then, but an asana practice can help. So you do have to, it's like when you're picking what to eat, on certain days, your stomach is not feeling as good as it does, right? Some days you can eat everything. It's just the way it is. And then some days your stomach is a little sensitive, so you go in for khichdi and you go in for other stuff like that. So just like that, choose your yoga practices in that way. Some days, for example, when my mind is going too berserk, for whatever reason, I know that only an asana practice can help me. And sometimes not even an asana practice. I have to go and do a run outside. And I need to listen to loud music. And once I do that, I'm removing that rajas from my body. Right? Other times when I'm in a very balanced and peaceful state, my mind is doing so well with yoga. So I think all of us know we are not the same every morning when we wake up, right? All days are different. Some days are more, some days are more energetic. Some days are not as energetic. Some days we're very positive. Some days we're negative. Some days we're moody. Other days we're so balanced. So yoga will ultimately help you balance, so that you do approach every day in a balanced way. And definitely an asana meditation practice can help you, but choose wisely. That is important.
Mahesh, I really hope that answers your question because these are some very valid points. People just tend to focus on one aspect and forget about the other. Let's just find the balance. We have Sridhar asking, why do the benefits of yoga plateau after a certain time?
Flatten after time? It's because like anything else, Is that the question? Why do they flatten after a certain time?
Why, yeah, why do they just plateau? Like,
Okay. Because it's like forget about, our bodies are an expression of nature. What's happening within us is happening outside of us. Look at a plant. If you use the same manure on that plant every single day, that plant stops, the effects of the manure are great initially, but ultimately they flatten out. Then we change the manure, right? And then the plant flourishes with the new minerals and the new vitamins that come. Just like that, remember that whatever is happening in the outside world is also happening in our inner world. Our inner beings and our outer beings are connected. So the benefits of yoga, they do flatten out. That's a good question. Or sometimes you feel like they're flattening out, but actually transformation is happening. And when you are able to first, for example, move from kosha to kosha, in yoga, we have a concept of different koshas, different layers of the body. So once you go to one layer and then you move to the inside layer, then you may need slightly different practices to purify that layer. So sometimes we feel as if a flattening curve is happening, but actually transformation is happening at a very subtle level, and we may not immediately feel it. So stay with the practice, be patient, and also do try to change your practices. If you're doing a asana practice, you may have to level it up, right? You move from beginner to intermediate to advanced. So you may have to level up your practice, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing to level up your practice. So, I mean, I hope I've answered this question, at least for the yoga asana part of it.
so Amandeep is asking, there are so many different kinds of yoga. There's Hatha, there's Iyengar. Which one to follow? And more importantly, do we really have to follow a particular type?
So I just want to say that the Hatha yoga is the base. That's the classical yoga tradition called Hatha yoga, and everything else is a spin-off of that. So Iyengar yoga is Hatha yoga using props. Like I showed you this, right? This is what we use in Iyengar yoga. So because Iyengar developed, BKS Iyengar developed props to help people who couldn't move into the asanas of Hatha yoga because their bodies didn't allow them to. Now, Ashtanga yoga is a set of sequences that are quite rigorous. So those are great for people who are young and fit and who want a workout during yoga. So Ashtanga yoga really works for them. Those who are very, very body conscious. And for example, now there's many different kinds of yoga in the West, like some forest method. I don't know, there's so many now. And they each are not exactly different kinds of yoga. They all stem from Hatha Yoga, but they're developed into sequences depending on that particular person. And that's the way that we look at it.
So I'm going to take one more question. It's from Mayur. Now, he says, is meditation a form of yoga or is yoga a form of meditation?
Good question. Yoga is a blanket, okay? It's a big one. For example, what does the word yoga mean? It means union, yog, union of the body, the mind, the soul, so that we all become one. Union, that's the meaning of the word yoga. So if that is the meaning of the word yoga, then all of it comes underneath it, right? Asanas also, meditation also. So yoga is a general word. Even karma yoga, which is selfless service, Raja yoga, bhakti yoga, these are all different kinds of yoga. Yoga just means union. It's a very wide word.
Okay, we'll take one last question because I think it's quite common. Can you please tell us the role of music during yoga? What kind of music should be played?
Great. So, I actually really enjoy using music during yoga, especially for online yoga. If you're in the presence of a teacher, often you don't need yoga. You don't need music because the energy of the teacher keeps you focused. Your class keeps you focused. But when you are doing yoga by yourself, when you're doing yoga online, these tools help you. And especially meditative music, classical music. I use a lot of classical music in my yoga practice and even when I teach. And this helps create an environment. Like this helps really create another way for us to move into meditation. There's different senses, right? And when we engage these senses, we're able to experience more. So when I try to get people to experience yoga, I do use meditation also because meditation is also working on our nervous system. It's also working on the mind. And when it's doing that, then we're able to move into a more meditative state. So I actually really believe in the use of music for therapy, music for yoga, and we stick to classical forms. That's what at least I do. And I use a lot of the ragas because I believe these ragas are very therapeutic and medicinal. These are sacred sounds which are in tune with our inner body. So using ragas, using even Western music has a lot of, it's soulful. When we listen to music, we say it's soulful. It's touching something within us, just like in asana practices. So I actually really like to use music.
Great, great. Thanks a lot. Thank you
Thank you,
so much
Jyoti.
for your time. And we will send you the questions. And I just want to remind everybody we will be back at 4 p.m. today with Diksha. And see you, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Again, any questions, please visit, please on email. I'm dropping our website. Please send across anything, and I'm here to help. Thank you, Jyoti. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.